So, for a lot of you guys and gals that don't know my story and how I got here today, I was born in Vietnam in 1970. My dad worked for the U.S. military as a translator for the U.S. Army at the time. In 1975, I was about 5 years old. At that time, my mom was 29 years old. She was pregnant with my sister, and I have four brothers. My dad was 34 years old. My dad went to work one day, and at that time, the war was in North Vietnam. They was, basically working their way down to South Vietnam. My dad got a call from the boss in the military, and he told all the troops down in the South that we are pulling out of Vietnam. We are leaving because the communists is taking over South Vietnam, so we're leaving. And so they started organizing troops to be pulled out of Vietnam, which you guys see in a lot of the TV shows on. My boss told my dad, hey, you should come with us to the U.S., fly out on the plane with us and go home and get your family and then come with us. My mom get a phone call from my dad, and when she hung up the phone, I knew there was a problem. And my mom says, we got to leave. And so my mom packed everything that we could pack into one suitcase. We had like $100 basically. She made these egg rolls and she had it all wrapped up. And then my dad came home in this Jeep and we started driving up towards Saigon. There was no bridges anywhere in South Vietnam. You had to really take all these small roads to get up to the city. We're on our way there and we pulled over and we trying to pick up my grandma, my auntie, and have those guys come with us. What's crazy was none of them was home. That's called destiny, you guys. Destiny. Nobody was home. And we're headed up to Saigon. On our way up to the airport, we blew a tire. And so my dad got out of the Jeep, jacked the car up, fixed the tire, put the replacement on, and then boom, off and going. We're literally an hour away. It's like a 5-6 hour drive up to Saigon from where we live. About an hour away, we go to get into the airport. We end up blowing another spare tire on this car. Okay, not a spare tire, but a tire on the car. So now we have no spare. So my dad had to pull over. There ain't no spare tire. So he had to actually flag down some people, get the spare tire, drive into another section of town near there, and had the tire fixed. And by the time he got it all fixed, and he came back, put the tire back on the car, by the time we got to Saigon, we missed the last plane. So now it's getting dark. All the kids, all of us was hungry. We've been on the road all day. And we checked in this hotel. He's calling his boss. He couldn't reach him. My dad decided he's going to stay down in the Jeep because he didn't want nobody to stay in the Jeep because that's the only car we got to head to the airport. So after many attempts, he finally got a hold of the boss. And the boss said, look, tomorrow morning, I want you and your family to meet me at this gas station. We're going to have this truck. We're going to get you guys into the truck because nobody know we're evacuating. So my dad slept in the Jeep and we all slept upstairs. So early in the morning, we all come down to the Jeep. We get into the car and we drive to this location. Then we all loaded up in this U-Haul truck. They shut the door and it's pitch dark inside, you guys. And I want you to think about it. My mom was 29 and my dad's 34. I'm 5 years old. I had 3 older brothers at the time. I still do, right? And my younger brother, obviously younger than me. And my mom was pregnant with my sister. Think about all that. And my parents doing all this to try to get us out of the country. We get into the truck. We shut the door. It's pitch black. Truck is driving. And by the time they open the door, we're inside the gate of the airport. And when we got out, there's people running everywhere, basically trying to get on the plane. We got on to the last plane. This is a C-140 cargo plane. And by the time we checked everybody in, we flew out. Now, I don't even know what's going through my mom and dad's mind on they're leaving the country. They couldn't find their mom. They couldn't find their sister. Right? The communists are taking over the country in like 24 hours. You guys saw all the clips where helicopters flying out of the embassy suite. That's where we actually all left out of. We flew out and we landed in Guam. We switched planes. We landed in San Diego and they used the Camp Pennington as the barrack to home people out of Vietnam. And we're all staying there. We stayed there for probably a few months to get everything situated. Governor Evans from Washington State decided they needed help, with the refugees. So he decided to go down to California and migrate 500 families up to Seattle. My dad, when he was in the service, he flew to the U.S. He knew about Seattle a little bit, and he decided to volunteer. We're going to go to Seattle. 500 family came up to Seattle. We were the first family, and we are now at Camp Murray in Tacoma, Washington. We were there for a few months, and then there was a volunteer person named Charles Zettler that was there, and he decided to sponsor our family to go move in with his mom over in Sumner, Washington, which is about 45 minutes south from here, from where I live in Seattle. He sponsored our family. We go live with them. We lived with them for about probably a year and a half. And then my dad got a job as a social worker up over here in South Seattle. But he didn't have a car and he didn't have a license to drive. So I want you to get this, okay? His mom, Charles' mom, was in her like high 50s, low 60s. She used to take my dad, you guys, drive him 45 minutes into South Seattle, drop him off. Then she would drive back home. And then at evening time, around 5 o'clock, she'd drive back into the city, which is 45 minutes, pick him up from work, and then drive him back home every day, Monday through Friday, for like 7 months. That's contribution. That's why today I have such a high value for contribution. That's why I do what I do. That's why I'm so committed on helping people be more successful in their business, in their life, by me sharing my own story of what I've gone through. Hopefully in my story, you guys get inspired and your life get better. My dad finally got a job and he found a small, basically 2-bedroom, 1-bath for 8 of us. We had a bunk bed in the living room, a sofa in the living room. And then my sister would sleep, my mom and dad, all of us would sleep on the bunk bed and on the sofa. But you know what, you guys? That was home compared to the homeless shelter. And we weren't even tripping. This is why I always ask you guys, how often are you guys looking to see all the blessing and all the things you can appreciate that's already great in your life? Even on your worst day, it was still better than people who live in the shelter or people who live in the streets. So sometimes we put perspective, in the wrong place, right? Even I have to remind myself how far I came. Sometimes when things ain't working for me, what I'm doing, I got to keep reminding myself, Thach, look how far you came, bro. Stay focused on how, being in a state of appreciation. I went to school, normal like any other kids, got teased for funny haircut, lining up at the food bank, getting block cheese, you know what I mean? The big ass box of cereal, getting teased and wearing fake shoes and all that kind of stuff. When I graduated from high school in 1988, I wasn't super sure what I wanted to do with my life. And I was parking car at a Chinese restaurant. My good friend, it was Linda, and she was studying for her real estate license. And I asked her, what is that? And she was telling me she's getting her license. She said, you should do it. And I said, why? She was like, you got a good mouthpiece. You should be great being a realtor and making money. And later on, you can invest in real estate. And I'm like, really? How much money do you make? She's like, you get 6% commission. And I'm thinking to myself, $100,000 house, 6%, that's $6,000. Man, I need to do this. At that time, I really didn't have a lot of inspiration other than I need to make some money. And I got into real estate in 1991. When I got into real estate at 21, I was the youngest agent ever hired in Washington State. I was clueless. I got my license and I didn't know what to do. I sat there literally for 3 years. I sold 1 or 2 houses a year to my dad's friends, and that was about it because I didn't know anything about prospecting and looking for a lead. In 1994, I met Mike Ferry. He was a real estate coach and trainer. He taught me how to go out there and look for sellers. Not look for buyer, but seller. And I used to get dropped off by my wife, Cammie, up on Beacon Hill. I had about 100 fly in my hand, and it used to take me about almost 5 hours to door knock 100 doors, talking to people, asking them if they want to sell their home. So I door knock 5 hours a day, Monday through Friday, which is 5 days a week. And I did it for 10 years. I did, started with Mike Ferry in 1995, 3 years after I got my license. I did 10 deals, 20 deals, 30 deals, 40 deals. In 2005, 2006, my peak year, I was doing about 150 deals a year, making close to $1 million a year in revenue. And then what happened, in that journey, I met another mentor named Saul. And he was the owner of a John F. Scott office. He said, hey, listen, you should come work for me because I can teach you how to invest your money and have your money work for you when you're asleep. And I was like, really? I went to his office and Saul said, look, you can make a lot of money selling real estate and you can be rich by trading your time to make money. But the only way you're going to really be wealthy and set yourself in the future so you don't have to work and you got to own real estate. I continue to sell real estate to make money because I needed to keep making money. If I'm not bringing in any earned income, I'm not going to be able to qualify for any loan, let alone have enough down payment to keep buying a lot of houses. So I need to keep the gas pedal down on making a lot of money in real estate. So Saul sat me down. He said this to me: look, at what age do you want to have the option to work or not work? And at that time, I was like 27 years old. And I said, Saul, man, if I was 45 years old and I can work when I want to work, that's great. He said, great. At 45, how much passive income do you think you need to have monthly to live comfortably, especially if you're debt free? And I was like, man, right now, man, it only cost me $5,000-6,000 a month personally. And so I said to Saul, man, if I had $15,000 a month in passive income and I'm debt free at 45, I live real comfortable. He's like, okay, great. What's the average rent? Well, at that time, the average rent was $1,500. So all I needed was about 10 to 11 houses bought and paid off. So Saul says, great. That's your focus, is to accumulate 10, 11 houses and get them paid off. Use your real estate vehicle to start making money and start buying and accumulating the doors. And I want to tell you guys who are listening, whatever you do for a living now, 9 to 5, whatever it is, use that as your vehicle to make money so you can start buying the number of doors you need. When I made enough money, I bought my first rental house in 1997, 98. The owner wanted to sell the property for $105,000, and I worked it out a deal where I only bought it for like $103 or something like that. And I threw in my commission, so that obviously brought the price down. And since I never owned a property at that time, I decided to buy it as a first-time home buyer, which all I needed was 3.5% down, which was only about $5,000. And after it closed, I went in there and I painted it up and everything. I was gonna live in the property, but then somebody I knew, they wanted to rent the property, so I decided, you know what? I'm just gonna rent it to him. Well, next thing I knew, that property had been rented since 1997. All the way till now. It's been rented by 3-4 different tenants, and that property is all free and clear today. I paid $103,000. Today, that property is worth $750,000 today. That was my first property. I got excited. I started making more money in real estate, and then I bought a second home, and then I turned that into a rental, and then I started working, and I bought a third house. Now, remember, I was still living in my mom and dad's house. My mom and dad had a 5-bedroom house. I didn't care to move out. I was doing well. I was making good money. I was living for free, but I was giving my mom and dad money and everything. And so every time I made enough money, you guys, I will take the money and I put it as a down payment. Depending on what property it was, I was putting down anywhere from 3.5% up to like 10, 15% back then, right? 20%, you didn't really need 20% back in the days, right? I stayed at my mom and dad's house and I did that process over and over and over. And I bought 15 rental property. And that's how I accumulated the first 15 property. And then after that, I really started focusing on making money and I started paying them down. That's when I started buying houses, rehabbing instead of fixing and flipping them. I started keeping them and have more rental property. And I didn't realize it. I started doing the BRRRR model. And then I started building townhouses. I was selling a bunch of those. And then at some point, I started actually owning them as rental property. And then eventually, I was making money from selling houses, wholesaling, flipping, building new construction, selling it, building an apartment building. And I started keeping those. That's how I grew my real estate portfolio all these years. Today, I am grateful to say that I have over $107,000 a month in positive cash flow, probably over $100 million worth of real estate today. And my goal now until I'm 62 years old, I'm 52 years old now, is to basically pay down all my property. And when it's all paid off, I should have easy over $250,000 a month in positive cash flow and probably $207 million, probably over $250 million worth of real estate holding. Because in Seattle, every 7 to 10 years, it doubles in value. So I know by the time I'm 62, another 10 more years, my real estate portfolio probably grow to probably $250 million easy. And today, my niche today is really just look for ugly houses, rehab them, keep them, build townhouses, and build apartment building, and keep them as rental property. Now, that's a wrap for this video. If you guys like it, give me a thumbs up. If you have any comment, please comment below. And remember, please subscribe to the channel if you haven't subscribed, and make sure you turn on the notification bell, because the next time we drop the video, you got to be notified, all right? Peace.